And I quickly realized that so many small business owners look great on the outside, but behind the scenes, they're drowning. And what I mean by that is that they don't have the business foundations set up. They don't have systems and processes and teams set up properly so that they can grow to the next level.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Scale Smart, Grow Fast podcast. Growth doesn't come from working more. It comes from working smarter. In this episode, Donna Dube, Certified Director of Operations and host of the CEO Amplify Podcast, shares 6 powerful habits that help business owners reclaim their time, delegate strategically, and increase profitability without the constant hustle. With experience supporting 6- and 7-figure businesses, Donna reveals what it really takes to shift from overwhelmed operator to confident, growth-focused CEO. Donna, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you, Harley. So happy to be here.
Now, Donna, tell us a little bit more about your background. Like, what brought you to this place where you're helping CEOs amplify their time and be more efficient in business?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So like many entrepreneurs, my road to entrepreneurship was windy and twisty, not narrow and straight. So I actually started my career in healthcare. I was an ICU nurse for a number of years and then switched gears once I had children. We started homeschooling and that took on a whole nother life. And then once they grew up, I was looking for now what? And so I had a friend who had a small business and she brought me in to help with project management. It was something I was naturally talented with. And while I don't like to think of my patients or my kids as projects, a lot of the work I did previously was kind of managing projects. And so came in the back end of her business, managed some projects and realized, yes, I really like this. And so I started working with other small business owners in that field. And so I would come in, manage a project from start to finish, timeline, budgets, who's on the team, what needs to be done, that sort of thing. And I quickly realized that so many small business owners look great on the outside, but behind the scenes, they're drowning. And what I mean by that is that they don't have the business foundations set up. They don't have systems and processes and teams set up properly so that they can grow to the next level. And so they end up working 24/7. Almost getting to burnout or burning out, right? And so that's when I kind of switched to the operations mode and said, I really want to help these business owners grow that foundation first, and then we can scale and get bigger because we have that foundation in place.
Yeah, I love it. Many CEOs spend too much time reacting instead of leading. What are the key habits you recommend to help them take back control of their week and lead with intention?
Yeah, good question. So where I like to start with all of my clients is to institute what I call a CEO Power Hour. And really what this is 1 hour dedicated each and every week. Same time, same place. It doesn't have to be a Monday morning. It can be a Friday afternoon. It can be a Sunday night. It can be a Tuesday. It doesn't matter what day. The important part is that you have it on your calendar and it's non-negotiable. So it's just as important as that sales call, right? Nothing gets in its way unless there's a life crisis. And so what you do during that hour is 3 things. You're going to review some of your top metrics. Are we on target? Not just for revenue, but some of the other metrics that we're following as a business. Am I on target for reaching those things? What are my top 3 priorities based on my goals and where I want to go? What are the next steps I have to take this week as business owner to get closer to those goals? And then what do I need to do to put on my calendar, rearrange my calendar, tell my team, tell my spouse, whatever that looks like. But what do I need to do to set my week up for success? And so what this does, Harley, is really set our week up to be proactive rather than reactive. We go into our week knowing exactly what our priorities are, and we've got time booked on our calendar to do those.
I was just going to ask real quick, are you a proponent of like time blocking, making sure you have got like regular fixed times on the calendar for the activities you need to do?
100% to some extent. And so again, it depends on the business owner because some say, oh, but I'm creative. I don't want to be put in a box, right? Mm-hmm. And so I do believe in time blocking, but also leaving some white space. So I don't want to see your calendar blocked, from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, because we need that chance to just get up, take a walk, be free, lie on the couch, go explore something outside, right? And so not every minute should be blocked out, but those top 3 priorities need definitely to be in that calendar. And the things that you need to do to keep your systems running in the back end. So what I mean by that is that each business needs a marketing system, a sales system, and a client delivery system. And so as business owner, you're going to have some specific roles within those systems. You don't have to do everything in it, but some things are going to be your responsibility. And so making sure that you have time each week for that. If that's creating new content, creating new videos, if that's doing a webinar with someone else or getting in front of someone else's mastermind or doing sales calls, if that's something you're doing within your business, right? But those high level growth level tasks that only you as CEO can do, not things you're delegating, those got to be in your calendar.
Now, you talk a lot about working smarter, not harder. What are some practical ways business owners can increase profitability by shifting how they work, not just how much they work?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I know this term is such a cliche, right? We use it all the time. Oh, work smarter, not harder. But what does it really mean? Well, for me, what it means is that I have dedicated time each and every week for growth level tasks. So I like to think about all the things that happen in my business can fall under two buckets, maintenance or growth. And so maintenance are things like paying sending out invoices and receiving payments, fixing something on my website, sending out emails, social media content, bookkeeping. Do those things need to happen? Yes, of course they need to happen. But I question if they have to happen by you. Mm-hmm. And so we want to be able to delegate, automate, and or stop if we're doing some things that aren't giving us a return, as many of those maintenance tasks as we can. Then the growth level tasks, these are the things that are revenue generating. So sales calls. If you're doing a group program where it's one to many, you need to be in there. Podcast guesting, JV webinars, teaching in other people's masterminds, networking. All of those things are those high-level tasks that are going to directly give you a return on investment. And that's where you need to be spending most of your time as business leader. Now, someone listening today is going to be like, well, I'm in maintenance tasks like 90% of my day, right? And don't feel shame in that. We all start somewhere. But the mindset is what you're working towards. So each day you can chip away at that and say, okay, this process I can delegate to Susie. This part I can automate, right? So that you're slowly chipping away and you have more time for that high level.
Now, you mentioned the investment in their time. That's something we hear and talk about a lot with Workergenics and getting people set up with executive assistants. How do you help business owners identify what that investment needs to be when they start delegating and how to quantify the return on investment when, it's freeing their time to do these other growth strategies that maybe don't have an immediate paycheck coming from it?
Yes. And that's sometimes the case when we hire someone, right? So depending on who we hire, sometimes we can directly see, okay, I hired someone to help me with Facebook ads and I got a direct return on investment, right? This many people converted and I sold this many, I paid them and I made a profit. Other people we bring into our business are helping us more on the operation side, freeing our time. And so we can't always tie directly that return on investment. So here's how I like to look at it. If I've got a new landing page that I want to develop and I need to make images in Canva that I want to put on that landing page. If I, as business owner, take the time to do that, it's going to cost me whatever my hourly rate as business owner times the number of hours that I'm doing that, right? Versus is if I have someone on my team who's a virtual assistant or a tech VA and I delegate that to them, their hourly rate is going to be significantly lower than mine. And so just doing the math there helps us see objectively that, great, I didn't actually make a sale from hiring that VA, but I made profit in the sense that it costs me less of my time and less money because I'm more expensive than most of my team members.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, as a business owner, when you're doing those kind of tasks that you can delegate, if you are doing that yourself, you might as well be going and getting a job at like Walmart or Target, making that kind of salary, because that's basically what you're saying to yourself, what your time is worth when you do those low-level tasks that someone else could do. And I know it's a struggle for a lot of people to kind of wrap their heads around that and think about like the investment up front of freeing themselves from that, especially early on in a business. What advice would you have to people who are getting started, still bootstrapping and thinking about, that challenge and trade-off of like investing and having the help versus still doing it all themselves?
Yeah. So I like to approach it from three prongs. So first of all, does this task still need to be done? because I find many times when we're first starting, we're trying so many different strategies to see what sticks. And sometimes we're doing 6, 7, 8 different strategies, but we haven't taken the time to actually measure, is this giving me a return on investment, right? Posting on social media on 16,000 channels every day. What is my return on investment, right? Where are people actually taking action and converting? And so just taking some time to measure first and say, okay, yes, this strategy is working. I want to keep doing it. So we know it's in. Then next, look at the process of how we get that done each and every week. Is there parts that I can automate? Automation takes some time for you to set up, but once you've set it up, it works. Well, as long as the tech's working continuously, right? Mm-hmm. There's no onboarding. There's not a lot of mentoring and work that you have to do after the fact. And so that's a next step to take. Even if I can't automate the whole process, what pieces of it can I automate? Because again, we're chipping away at that. And then the third thing is, if this isn't something that I can automate because it needs some mental looking at it, right? It's not repeating the same process over and over and over. It needs a human touch. Then where can I delegate? And I can start small. So I don't need to bring in a full-time employee to begin with, right? I can hire someone for 5 hours a week. Start with something small. And then as you grow, that person can grow with you.
You mentioned the automation. Do you have any favorite tools that are just kind of general business tools for automation that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So definitely, I think most of us are using this type of thing now, but the calendar integration, so being able to just send a link to someone and say, book in my calendar at a time that suits you without the back and forth through email. I very much enjoy using Airtable. So again, it's a little specific, but it does help with a lot of automation. Connect your email in there so you can send automated emails. I've seen it used, in clients with podcasting and keeping all of that arranged somewhere and keeping it sort of on top of things. You can send out reminder emails, all of that. So there's also CRMs have a lot of automation associated with them. A lot of tools have automation built in. So I would say start with the tools you have first before you go out looking for more, because that can just be another rabbit hole, right?
Every day, your top performers are buried under emails, scheduling, and reporting. Work that doesn't move the needle. The result? Frustration, burnout, and worst of all, lost revenue. That's why we created the Executive's Guide to Scaling High Performers, a simple, battle-tested framework to eliminate busy work and unlock your team's full potential. Inside, you'll get the exact steps top executives use to retain A players, boost productivity, and free up their team for high-impact work. Stop losing revenue. Go to workergenics.com/growthhub or check the episode notes to download the Executive's Guide to Scaling High Performers now. Yes. We've talked about, having the business owners spending time in these low-level tasks. At what point should a business owner recognize they're spending too much time in the weeds? And what are the first steps to shifting into a CEO role focused on growth?
Yes. Okay. So I like to gamify this a little bit. And so what I do is I have what's called a CEO score. And so it's basically looking at how much money do I want to make revenue-wise for the year, and divide that by the number of weeks that I want to work this year. And that will give me, a CEO score. And what I'm looking at there is, it's not what I'm going to get paid to do the work. It's not what I'm going to pay someone else. It's really about my blood, sweat, and tears, right? The higher the revenue I want to accomplish, the higher my CEO score. And then we take some of the common tasks that are in our business and we assign it a certain dollar amount. So maintenance tasks are going to be in the $10 and the $100 category. Those growth level tasks that we talked about earlier, those are going to be in the $1,000 and the $10,000 category. So depending on my CEO score, I may need to spend some time in the $1,000 and some time in the $10,000 tasks, right? And so this helps when we do it continuously each week. Take a few minutes, write down what we did and how that scores out. It's a way for us to see, am I reaching my CEO score? Am I spending enough time in those high level tasks? Really is what it's doing. And if you imagine big business, Apple, Microsoft, Nike, that CEO is not in the weeds at all, right? They're far removed from that. And I realize small business is not the same, but just to give you, that sort of picture is that you want to be moving as much of your time as you can and by using that CEO score, it's a way to keep track of, am I spending enough time on those higher level tasks?
No, that's super helpful. Having that CEO score where someone can just maybe keep a tab open or, keep an eye on that. So whenever they start a task, it's like, hey, is this in my CEO score or is that something that should be delegated? That's really powerful.
Yes.
When CEOs or business owners are hesitating to delegate, it's often because they don't trust the process or feel like they are the only ones who can do this or they'll do it best. How can they shift their mindset and build confidence in their team or support system to handle these things for them?
Yes. Yeah. And, this is very common for many of us as we started our small business. It was us at the beginning. We were doing everything, right? And so sometimes hold on to that and feel like we can't let go. And so I know many times I've worked with clients, maybe partially their perfectionism habits are coming into play. They say, no one does it as best as me. And my take on this, Harley, is that if I can delegate to a team member to do this 75 to 80% as well as I would, we're golden, right? We're not looking for perfection here. We're looking to get it off our plate and have someone else take care of it for us so that we can spend more time in the strategic level. So a couple of things we can do. That person can't read our mind. And so we do have to take some time to set up things properly so they have success, right? So giving them examples of what we want them to do, showing them what success looks like. If we have a video or a written document of how to do this task, that's a big start because now they're not starting from nowhere going, well, I would do it like this, right? They have something to go by. You also get less questions coming back at you saying, well, what about this? How do I do that? What about this? When you have documented how to do a certain task. So putting that time in up front to set that team member up for success helps both of you. So I like to say it's short-term pain for long-term gain.
Absolutely. Well, I love what you mentioned about if they can do it even 75, 80%, that's good enough. We got that philosophy a long time ago when my wife and I lived in Virginia and we had a hobby farm and we were big fans of what was going on with Joe Salatin, how he does farming, and I saw in a video, he said, good enough is perfect. And so that was you have to take that approach when you're running a business, whether it's a farm or service-based or tech company. Good enough is perfect because you cannot do everything yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the bottom line is if you insist on trying to do everything yourself, you're also agreeing to stay where you are.
Yeah.
Because growth and scaling, can't happen if you're everything, right?
Yeah. Now, you've worked with many fast-growing businesses. What systems or workflows consistently move the needle for those looking to scale without the chaos?
Yes. Again, it's those 3 systems behind the scene. So do we have a marketing system? Meaning, do we have a way of bringing in new people into our world? Do we have a strategy for nurturing them, building that trust? And then as we move into the sales, do we have a strategy for selling regularly to them? Many business owners, we think we're talking about our offers all the time, but that's because we're in it all the time. But if we actually went back and looked at the emails we sent out, maybe we actually pitched our offer a lot less than we think we do. So do we have a consistent sale strategy and cycle where we're inviting people to come and work with us? And then that third piece, that client delivery. Do we have a consistent strategy for onboarding those new clients, delivering on the promises that we made on the sale, and then offboarding when that work is finished? So really honing in on those and having rinse and repeat systems and assets for that, right? So that every time we want to tell the world about offer X, we're not starting from scratch. We've got assets. Maybe we've got a webinar. Maybe we've got emails, whatever that looks like in your business. Reuse those assets because they're there for a reason. Yeah, we may have to tweak and change things, but we don't have to start from scratch.
Now, shifting gears a little bit, talking about the team, we've mentioned that it's so important to delegate and have that team in place to support these systems. And sometimes there are challenges. We're dealing with people here, right? So difficult conversations are part of being a leader. What's your framework for navigating them while still keeping the team aligned and engaged?
Yes, good question. So I'm a strong believer of having an open communication and honest and early. So what I mean by that is that if we're working together and I've noticed, things that you're doing are not aligning with where we want to grow as a business, or I've given you feedback and you're not responding to that feedback in a positive way, then let's have that conversation. It's easy to push it under the rug and say, oh, we'll do it next week. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to do it now. But that's not helping the business nor the team member. So being open and honest and upfront and having that conversation as early as we know there's a problem is the way to go. And then for you as business leader, you want to conduct that conversation from an objective viewpoint, meaning that you're going to bring with you the data. So it shows that, okay, Harley, I asked you to do task X. I gave you a deadline of this day. It wasn't done. I asked you about it on that day, whatever the story is behind it, but leave the emotion out of it, just the facts. That makes it so much easier to have that conversation and doesn't then feel like, it's me against them. Because at the end of the day, we want our team to be on board and be rowing the boat in the same direction as us. Right. And so, without coming in as a hard hitter, but still you want to present the facts the way they are and then have that person respond to that. Maybe they have some life thing going on that's, they haven't told you about, and it's a life crisis. And now is the time for them to open up and say, okay, sorry, yes, I dropped the ball on that. Here's what happened. And then the two of you together can come up with a solution so that this doesn't continue happening.
That's perfect. Now, we talk a lot about strategy here. What do you think most business owners misunderstand about decision-making at the CEO level?
Yes, too slow and not enough. So what I mean by that is that they're decision fatigued because a lot of little things are coming across their desk, their board, their phone every day. But those bigger decisions, they sit on too long, right? And so we need to be fast decision makers on the bigger strategy things and not sit on things for too long if we want to grow and scale. Yeah. And those smaller decisions, we want to get as many of those off our plate as possible. So that means once we've got that team in place, we now have to empower that team to be autonomous, meaning that within their role, there's certain decisions they can make about that project, about that task. Right? We need to be clear with them. These decisions are yours to make. I trust you. This decision over here needs to come back to me. And setting up those guardrails, if you will, so that team members know, okay, I don't have to go ask her if this color of orange is right. I can make that decision, but I do need to ask her something bigger. Right? And so helping your team members then take autonomy and empowering them to say, yes, I've got this task. I don't need to keep going back and asking.
Now, you've shared so many helpful tips already. If a business owner wanted to make their next week twice as productive, what's the one thing they should do right now to set that in motion?
Love it. So I would say book that non-negotiable CEO Power Hour. So find that time in your week, plug it in 1 hour, and it's recurring every week. And then go download the CEO Power Hour playbook so you know exactly what to do during that hour.
Perfect. And Donna, what's the best way for people to continue the conversation with you and get that playbook from you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So my website is ceoamplify.ca. You can download the PDF playbook from there, and certainly happy to reach out and have a chat.
Thank you so much. Now, those of you listening, if you got value from this episode, do one quick thing. Hit the like and subscribe so you don't miss future strategies to help you scale smarter. And do you know a business owner or a colleague who could use this? Share this episode with them. It could be exactly what they need right now. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, leave us a quick rating. It helps us reach more leaders like you. And again, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you all in the next one.